uh, uh, ta, 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 peace, 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 peace. Attempt, dua, attempt.
Which uh, greetings, everyone. Just before we begin, we're having a special presentation in September, the 19th, 20th to the 22nd, where we'll cover the temples and tomb of Ramses III. Is going to be a commemoration of the Opet festival that was performed in ancient times. And in that presentation, we're going to cover the Opet festival and special teachings coming from the temples and the tomb of Ramses III. And, it's going to be wonderful and great and all that. And it is something really that one should not miss uh, because of what is covered there. And you'll see what I mean by that when you're there. And again, you can take it as a spiritual retreat. And uh, last time I spoke about this, I said you can certainly journal, but it appears now that the original format of holding the lectures during the day as opposed to the evening uh, will be more feasible to handle these this immense topic. So you can do your journaling at night and your meditation reflections at night uh, before you go to bed, and that has certain benefits that you don't have during the day. You can set up a nice, calming, relaxing environment before going to bed, etc. But we'll talk more about those things as we get closer. And when the group meets, we'll discuss those things in more detail. But just as a reminder that it's coming up, so you should have not already signed up and reserved your spot for it, for this historically event. Okay, Dylan. Now we'll continue with our current discussion. We are discussing the temple mysteries. And again, this is not a full rendition because of how much there is the enormity of the topic. And but we're hitting some key points that will help people to understand, or help you to understand, what these structures are about and how they were designed, they were created for the benefit of the soul of humanity. So we're at the Ben, discussing the Ben, and we started with the covering the Bennu bird, which is the prototype for the Greek Sphinx, is not only etymologically related to the Ben, but it has a special a special mythological relation to the Ben. You see what that is now. So the last time we were talking about the mystic integration of spirit soul and spirit consciousness. And this is what the Bennu bird represents. So keep in mind that the term mystic is being used and not mythological. So the mythological principle is leading us to understand a mystic reality. And that mystic reality can only be fully understood through the experience, the mystic experience of what the mythological principle is pointing towards. So this idea of integration of spirit soul and spirit consciousness is an actual mystical realization of spiritual practitioners that actually happens when you go through what is referred to as the Shetty disciplines, the Shetty process. And in the Shetty process, you cover myth, ritual, mysticism, and metaphysics. So the metaphysics, meaning certain practices and disciplines, lead to the mysticism. So you need metaphysics to achieve mysticism. There are certain practices that occur in the pyramid that are metaphysical. And then and those metaphysical practices lead to a mystic realization through the metaphysical process of the pyramid mystery. So the pyramids are metaphysical devices that leads to mystical realizations. Sure, there might be other properties, generating of energy, the labyrinth of water underneath, but those are side effects. Using side effects here as something positive. So the primary reason for the construction of the pyramids is to generate a field of metaphysics for the movement towards an actualization of mystic integration. So there's an aspect of you that is soul, And there's an aspect of you that is spirit consciousness. When soul integrates with spirit consciousness, you have an enlightened awareness. So these are deeper, more subtle aspects of yourself. And how you understand these deeper, more mystical aspects of yourself is that you have to go through the Shetty process that leads you to experience these more subtle aspects. So it's not an intellectual enterprise. You use the intellect to fulfill the true mission, which is the discovery of spirit, the true nature of the soul. Therefore, the Benben exemplifies the light emitting effulgence of the divine as Benben. So Benben, which is etymologically related to Benu, which is etymologically identical to Benben, relates to the light emitting essence of the divine. So the Benben stone is the representation of the effulgence of the divine, emitting its essence in the realm of time and space. Right? You need time to organize space. You need the illusion of time to organize the illusion of space. So it's a union of spirit and time. Here you have the determinative of the sun disk with the plumes coming out, which relates to emission of light. The Bennu, now mythologically speaking, going back to myth, the Bennu hovers over the primeval waters. And when the Benben appears, the essential point where spirit meets matter to emerge from the transcendent, he sits atop the Benben as the creator consciousness, Ra, principle, from which he makes sound, from which time creation emerges. Therefore, the pharaoh whose name is on the Benben stone is that same Bennu in his or her essential nature. The primeval waters is the first essence that emerges from the transcendent. So you can relate it to the first essence that emerges from Nebuchadnezzar, all-encompassing divinity. So Nebuchadnezzar is pure spirit. The primeval waters are potentiality of that spirit to manifest as something, some coagulated object, such as the universe. From that primeval abyss, the Benben emerges. The Benben is the point that where that transcendent meets the unformed essence of matter. Now, how do you get spirit and matter to combine to start the process of creation, meaning manifestation of what we refer to now as the universe? Bennu sits at the very top of the Benben, where there's potentiality for coagulation and the essence from which that potentiality has emerged from. So Bennu sits on top of that. And he utters a sound. So he adds to the formula vibration. So, and this is called decan. Comedic term is decan, meaning to vibrate, vibration. Vibration in the process of creation. So the transcendent is pure placidity. There is no movement, there is no coagulation, there is no direction. It's pure spirit essence. And then the point from which spirit and unformed essence come together needs something to start it to combine and start it to vibrate so that objects in creation can become manifest. In other words, it starts the process of the quanta field, the arising of the Higgs boson, the leptons, the gluons, if you want to look at it from a scientific perspective, of the electrons, the protons, all the vibrations of the coagulation and formation of particles, and the movement of those particles to combine together to form objects. So you need decan in the formula, and then that starts the vibration. So the Bennu utters a sound to start the vibration, the movement, the first the coagulation, then the sound, the coagulation effect of that sound that starts the process of the union of spirit and matter. And in this way, Benben is an aspect of creator consciousness. On the Benben, you have the name of the Purdah. Purdah is what is commonly translated as Pharaoh, but it really means great house. Amen Imhat. His name is on the Benben. So what it means is that the essential essence, nature of the Pharaoh is the same as Bennu. His essential nature. So in other words, there's an aspect of the Purdah There's the Bennu, an aspect of the Purda that is the Ben. So the Ben is the essence of Purda manifest. You follow that? That means there is something about you. This is really talking about, essentially, it's talking about you and your true essence, your true divine nature. So these aspects are really essentially aspects of yourself. And you're not trying to discover how you mythologically stood on the Bennu and started uttering you. What you're trying to discover is the true nature from which all of that has emerged from. And the process to do that, that is referred to as Shedi. And what you need is metaphysics. And not just any metaphysics. You need the metaphysics that has been delineated by the sages, our spiritual ancestors, enlightened being ancestor. So this whole area is one area of metaphysical apprehension, where the pyramids are. So these are metaphysical devices for redemption of the soul. If you were to follow the metaphysics of the pyramid from the base, recall the Ben is at the top, and then you have the Deccan that's applied through the Bennu. So the four sides represent the four equilateral plane of the universe, creation. So the pyramid is a metaphysical representation of the human psyche, makeup, construct. So if you were to follow the metaphysics of the pyramid, you would discover your own Ben nature. That's what it's leading to. That's what it's pointing towards. But again, not just doing anything. You have to follow the program of the sages. And that's why we have the classes and the books, etc. So essentially, you are sitting on top of the universe. But the problem is discovering that and not only thinking of it intellectually, but the mystic realization of that supernatural reality, that supramundane reality. So that will be it for today. And we'll come back next week and continue. Dua, everyone. Dua again for the devotion this morning. Remember our program in September on the OPET Festival and on our great stage, Ramses III. Hetep.